Hey guys, we're going to do an example of factoring by grouping. So I have a quadratic here and we're going to factor it. Factoring means we're going to break it apart into two pieces that multiply together to get back to here. Okay? So when you are factoring, you need to know that we are in standard form. So this is standard form. That means we are ax squared plus bx plus c. A, b, and c are all numbers. X squared, x squared, x, x. Okay? So when you are going to factor by the grouping method, the first thing that you need to know is you need to find a product. Product is when two things multiply together. All right? The product that we're going to find is A times C in this case. All right? So A is 6 for this function, and C is -2. So I am going to do 6 times -2, and I get -12. Okay? The next thing I have to know is I have to have a sum. Sum is the answer to an addition problem, so two things add together. All right? Our sum is always our B number. All right? Now, we don't see a number in front of our x for our b, so we know it is an understood 1. Okay, so our sum is 1. All right, so our goal is we're going to find two numbers that multiply to equal -12, but add to equal 1. Okay, so I'm going to come over here just so I have a little bit more room. And I'm going to start with the -12. I'm going to start with my product because there are only so many numbers that multiply to 12. Okay, since my number is negative, I know, kind of a red flag moment, if my product is negative, that means that one number must be negative. So I'm going to always have one negative and one positive. That's how you multiply to get a negative number. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to find two numbers that multiply to equal 12. So I know I could do 1 and 12, right? And one of them has to be negative. So -1 times 12 equals -12. Or I could do a +1 times a -12. But when I add them together, I have to make sure that it equals my sum. My sum is 1 in this case. So if I add -1 plus 12, I'm going to get 11. That's not what I want. I want 1. I want 1 to be my sum. Okay? And if I add 1 plus a -12, I get -11. I don't want that either. Okay? I want my sum to be 1 in this case. Okay? That's why I have my sum over here. So I need to go through all the factors of 12, all the numbers that multiply to equal 12, and see when I add them together which one equals 1. If you're shaky on your multiplication tables, you're going to go like I just did. I did 1 and 12, -1 and 12. I did 1 and -12. Then I can do 2 and -6, or -2 and a +6. When you add them together, 2 plus a -6 equals -4. Okay, that one doesn't work. Or -2 plus 6 equals a +4. That's not going to work. Again, I want my sum to be 1. So you can keep going, kind of a guess and check. If you're more comfortable with your multiplication tables, this process will go a little faster for you, all right? So I need to multiply to equal -12, but add to equal 1. So that means that I am going to use a 4 and a -3. 4 plus a -3 equals a +1. This is the one we want. So we're going to use -3 and a +4. Those are the two numbers that we want. What are we going to do with those two numbers? we're going to come back over here to our function and we're going to stretch it out a little bit. So I'm going to write 6x squared, that part stays the same, and I'm going to write this -2 right here, that part stays the same. So this and this stays the same. What we're going to stretch out is this 1x, okay? We're going to stretch it out to be plus 4x minus 3x. Plus 4x minus 3x. That's where we're using those two numbers. If you have a negative number, put that one second. Otherwise, your order doesn't matter. But if you have a negative, put that one second. Okay? So next, what I'm going to do now is the grouping part. Okay, so we've broken it apart. We've broken 1x apart into two pieces. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4 terms, and I'm going to group them together. I'm going to group my first two, and I'm going to group my second two. Okay? And now we're going to find the greatest common factor 3 times in a row. So, zoom in here. I'm going to find the greatest common factor of 6x squared and 4x. Remember, greatest common factor means the biggest thing that goes into both. So if I'm going to do the greatest common factor between 6 and 4, that's a 2. 2 is the biggest number that can go into both. Between x squared and x, the biggest thing that can go into both is an x. So that means I am going to divide both of these by a 2x. 6 divided by 2 is 3. X squared divided by x is just an x. 4 divided by 2 is a positive 2. X divided by x is 1. So I found the biggest thing that goes into both of these terms, and then I undistributed. I divided it out. Okay, we're going to repeat that. I told you we're going to do it 3 times. Here's the first time. We're going to do it all over again. We're going to find the biggest thing that goes into 3x and -2. Negative 3x. Okay, big red flag right here. If you see this negative sign in front, you're going to take a negative with it. Okay, so automatically I know that I am going to take a negative out. And then the only thing in common between a 3 and a 2 is a 1, and then there's no variable. So I'm going to take a -1 out. So I'm going to divide this guy and this guy by a -1. -3 divided by a -1 is a positive 3x, because the x goes along for the ride. -2 divided by a -1 is a positive 2. Okay? So we just changed the signs, essentially. Now we're going to go over one more time. So we did greatest common factor here once, greatest common factor here once. We're going to do greatest common factor here for the third time. What is the biggest thing that goes into this part, your beginning part, and your second part? Hopefully you recognize that these parentheses are the same. That is your greatest common factor. So I'm going to take out 3x plus 2 from both sides. So I'm going to divide this piece, 3x plus 2. I'm going to divide this piece by 3x plus 2. Those cancel, and I'm left with 2x. And these cancel, and I'm left with -1. You have factored by the grouping method. This is one factor, this is one factor. This is your answer when they ask you to factor by the grouping method. So you have to break apart your middle term, that's using your sum and product, and then find your greatest common factor 1, 2, 3 times. Okay? Let me know if you guys have any questions, want to see another example, and I will catch you guys later. Bye.